I wrote a book on the secrets to building a successful minority-owned company. And I traveled across the country interviewing CEOs of companies, and I asked them the one single question: what is it you think it takes to build a successful minority-owned company? I was the first African American in the Houston region to obtain the CCIM designation, and it's considered the PhD of commercial real estate. It took me to a level where people began to recognize that I was a genuine, bona fide commercial real estate expert, and that I was capable of providing commercial real estate solutions as good as or better than anyone else in the commercial real estate industry. The average revenue of an African American entrepreneur is $58,000 a year. The average revenue of a Hispanic entrepreneur is about $167,000 a year. Asian entrepreneur is about $364,000 a year. The average revenue of a non-minority owned entrepreneur is $558,000 a year. First and second generation businesses, they've gone through a lot of the challenges and have built a lot of the relationships that the minority entrepreneur is just having to do on their own. When I look at the types of companies that are really growing and succeeding, they have access to those decision makers within those major government entities or government organizations. That's not always the case with minority-owned companies. And when you get inside of those corporations, those relationships are so entrenched. They've been around for 25, 50, in some cases 100 years. So for a minority-owned company to try to break in there, it's been very, very challenging. One, getting access to the decision makers within major corporations. Second is being included in opportunities. When I talk to CEOs across the country, there's still that perception out there that minorities can only provide products and services in a certain category, and they have not broadened the opportunities for minorities in all categories in products and services, specifically around legal services and commercial real estate and advertising and accounting, those types of professional services. There are still a lot of challenges with inclusion and diversity in those areas. The National Minority Supplier Development Council is an organization that was started over 40 years ago, and actually was started by corporations for this very reason, and that is to try to see how to figure out to get more minorities involved in contracting opportunities with major corporations. Currently, I'm a vice chair of the National Minority Business Input Committee. We look at challenges and issues that are impacting the minority community, and we track trends and statistics and those types of things so that we can validate what's really happening within the minority business community and provide some solutions and strategies that would help move those companies forward. Three things to focus on if you're a small business. One is the ability to have capital or financing for your business. Without capital or financing for your business, it's very difficult to grow. Two is to have the right personnel around you. And then three, to have a very strategic, focused marketing business development strategy. Those three things, I think, are key if you are a small business owner. We stay innovative and creative by paying attention to current events, paying attention to challenges, paying attention to pain points that our customers and future customers have. And when we do that, we force ourselves to look at new ways of providing value-added services to our clients. And our culture is such that we encourage and we insist on the folks that work within our organization to consistently look at ways to be creative and be innovative. We don't run from the problems, we run to those challenges, and we come up with innovative ideas to do those. And we've done that this year for sure. We have several programs that we rolled out to address the challenges that small businesses and our clients are facing right now during this pandemic. Lease Relief was designed to help small businesses deal with the lack of income that they are experiencing as a result of the pandemic. And so we're helping them restructure and renegotiate their leases so they can either get abated rent from their landlords, or reduced rent, or some other form to assist them during this very difficult time. The other thing that we've done is that we are hosting sessions around how small businesses right now can take advantage of the CARES Act, which is a part of a solution for the pandemic. A portion of the CARES Act is great for small businesses because you can secure a loan or you can refinance your commercial real estate project. If you're going to occupy 51% of it, and not have to pay a mortgage for at least 6 months. It's not something that you have to pay in the future. It's abated. You do not have to pay a mortgage payment for 6 months. I think that's very significant for a small business. When I first started my business, and all of my clients and all of my prospects and all of my ideas were written on index cards. And then we would file them, and then we would follow up on them, and we would put our ideas down there. And so we literally started from an index box on the kitchen table. And I still have that box today, and I look at it frequently to just remind me of what's possible, where we've come from and where we are now. You know, my first transaction was a $365 transaction. And to go from that to what we're doing now, working with clients in Perth, Australia, Warsaw, Poland, Alaska, and all across the country. And it all started from an index box on the kitchen table.
All right, you all. So thank you so much for joining in. I think we have met our capacity, so we are going to just jump in. We've met our capacity, so we are going to go ahead and get started. For those of you who do not know, my name is Tiffany Ryland. I am a second-generation business owner here in Houston. When I say business owner, that's because I am claiming it in existence. Ed Ryland is the founder and CEO of Arvo Realty Advisors, and for those of you who jumped in late, that was just a video to give a little bit more information of who we are and what we do from a company perspective and where we've come from. And I can say right now that we are extremely proud and extremely happy about where we are and what we're continuing to do. So I'm going to go ahead. We have a lot of information that we want to share. And so I want to go ahead and get started in our presentation. If there's any questions that you have, please make sure you drop those in the chat. We're going to try to answer as many of them as we possibly can. But I'm going to tell you, you guys sent a ton of them. There's about 77 that I pulled out. So we're going to do some of these, and then we're also going to do some live questions as soon as we get those sent into the chat. So you guys sit tight with us, and then we'll get to those as well. So let me get my presentation up here so you guys can see, and I'll share my screen again. Here we go. And let me know if you guys can in the chat. If you can't see it, let me know. But hopefully we won't have many issues with that. Share. There we go. We should be in share mode. If you can't see it, let me know. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get in. As I said before, my name is Tiffany Ryland, and we are a full-service commercial real estate firm. We are Arvo Realty Advisors, headquartered in Houston, Texas, but we have a nationwide footprint. We service individual investors, small to mid-sized businesses, government entities, and corporations with buy, selling, and leasing commercial property across the country. As the video stated, we have been in business for over 38 years. And I know some of you guys are looking at me like I cannot possibly be 38, but listen, if there's any attorneys in here, please let me know, because I'm sure I qualify for some child labor back pay, because I've definitely been in the business since before I was even born. So leave your information in the chat, because I think I want to sue Ed Ryland for a couple of dollars there. One of the unique things about our company is we are one of the top minority-owned firms in the country, not the city, not the state, but in the country. And a lot of that is attributed to the fact that we are one of very few full-service commercial real estate firms. The diversity in this industry, we'll go over some of those stats. I mean, there's not many minorities here. So that's a little bit about myself, a little bit about the company. We're going to go ahead and get into some of these diversity stats. So my why, I'm over talking about the issue, right? We can look at these numbers and we can talk about these numbers all day, but the reality is this: they're not going to change unless we start to. Right? And unless we start to put things in action. So I'm fired up about creating a solution. And I just want to say again, thank you. I know I've said it a ton of times, but thank you guys for joining us today, because you are a part of the solution. One of the things that I wanted to do, I have a 4-pillar execution strategy, and that is to give exposure, to give opportunity, to give mentorship, and then there's the financial aspect. And those are the 4 largest barriers for entry for minorities specifically. So we're going to take a brief look. We're not going to get too bogged down in these numbers, because again, I want to make sure that we are not getting stuck on the problem, but that we're creating solutions. And for certain, this is not a divisive conversation. It's not a us against them and them against us. This is a conversation to say, these are the realities, and this is how we move the narrative forward. This is how we push the narrative forward to get more minorities into commercial real estate. So we look at the commercial professionals, and this is just at a basic level. There's about 61,000 people, of which when you look at non-minority men and non-minority women, they make up about 70%. They make up about 70% altogether, which means that everybody else is less than 20, right? Or I'm sorry, that's about 80%. So it means everyone else is less than 20. When we look at the mid-level managers, you have men and women, again, we're over 80%, making us less, and this is in mid-level positions. Then we scroll down to the commercial real estate senior executives. When we look at the senior executives, this is really interesting. This is when I got a little bit of fire under me to look and see that each minority female category, Hispanic women, Asian women, Black women, and other women hold less than 1% of C-level executive jobs. You all, that is insane. It is 2020 and there are about 125,000 jobs in commercial real estate, and minority women specifically make up less than 1%. And so that is where my energy comes from. That is where the fuel to my fire comes from. It's to see a number like that, and I know, just looking at the statistics from the poll that we took for you guys to register for the session, there were about 163 women that registered for this. I know that there's more than 1% of us that can represent in a C-level position. And so that's my why, and that's why we're here today. So jumping into this commercial real estate industry, we're gonna talk a little bit about what's the difference between residential and commercial, and we're gonna breeze past this because I wanna make sure we get to your questions. Residential versus commercial. They are the same in genre. And what do I mean by that? Yes, they're both real estate, but they are totally different in practice. So when we talk about, how do you do commercial leases and how do you do residential leases, they are totally different. In commercial, we can be talking about tenant improvement, and in residential, you're probably talking about, okay, how long is your term and how much are you gonna spend? And that's the end and the beginning of it, okay? So they're totally different in practice, but same in genre. Talking about the market update. Before we get there, a lot of questions came in about how do I know if this is a good market for me to invest in? So for my investors, I want you to listen very close to this piece. And then for those who are agents and real estate professionals, I want you to also pay close attention. There's two primary things that drive commercial real estate. You have population and you have jobs. And so right now in the state, when we are in the midst of a pandemic and a recession, we have been, I think, taken just by surprise. Over 150,000 people have died from COVID. We were not expecting that in February of 2020. February 2020, our numbers looked a lot different than what it does now. And so COVID has affected both of these in a negative way. Jobs, we've lost over 20 million jobs, giving us about a 14.7% unemployment rate. That is insane. And so if I told you those two things drive commercial real estate and you looked at only those two, you'd probably be like, this is the worst market for you to get into right now. I want to change your mind on that. I want to give you a different perspective, and maybe not change your mind, but definitely give you a different perspective. And that's why we're going to dive into each of these sectors. For those of you who are unaware, and this is 101, so you guys bear with me. I want to make sure that I take it there as slow as I possibly can. And if there's any questions, again, leave them in the chat. But I want to go over the different sectors of real estate, commercial real estate. You have office, you have retail, industrial, land, multifamily, and special purpose. Those are your different sectors in commercial real estate. And so from a broad overview, if you looked at just the population and jobs, you'd probably say, no, I don't want to invest. But for those of you who understand that commercial is a long-term game, you might look at this and say, well, this is a down market, so there should be some opportunities. And you're absolutely right. We're going to hop into office. So what's softening the office market? This market was already a soft market. Prior to COVID, it was already one of the softer markets. And so when we look at what's happening, one of the biggest things that I've been hearing about is just the co-working space. What's happening there? There's about 19,000 co-working facilities as of 2019, of which 93.2 million square feet of office space dedicated to those co-working. And some of them are in warehouses, but we're just going to talk about the square footage that they're occupying. So if we lost half of those to the pandemic, and as sad, but we have to talk about it, we're going to lose some of this co-working space because of the pandemic. Co-working space is built on community, and as some of you may know, I don't know about you guys, I don't even want to be in the same room with Ed because it's scary out there, right? And so people are moving from wanting to be in collaborative working space where it's high touch, where you touch the desk, you touch the door, you touch everything else, to wanting to be in an executive suite or working from home in general. They do not want to be in collaborative working space the way that they used to. And so now we're looking at losing a lot of square footage due to the master leases that co-working space took. And a master lease is essentially where they come in and they may lease out an entire floor, and then they sublease a space inside of there or on that floor to other individuals. And so we're going to lose some square footage to co-working space. In addition to the mandated stay-at-home orders, for those people who were already working in offices, maybe the 1 and 2 man shops, they're looking at their office options and saying, hey, listen, we were spending unnecessary money to be in an office. We're more effective now. We can work from home. Or maybe we'll work from home until the pandemic, brushes over. And so we're going to lose some spaces to that. And remote working, again, for large corporations, they're saying, look, you guys stay home until 2021. Let's see what's going to happen. So office market is definitely a softer market for us right now. Does that present opportunities? Absolutely. We'll talk a little bit more about it. But if you're someone who's saying, I want to invest in an office building, if you have the ability to sustain financially through this pandemic and you have positive outlook for it, then this may be an option for you to look into. Looking at the retail market, the one thing that I have been hearing, and probably one of my least favorite terms, is retail is dying. Retail is not dying, nor is it dead. It is simply evolving and changing, as with anything else. One of the things that I've found is that as consumers, we have different needs and different priorities. I am probably one of the biggest procrastinators when it comes to anything. I could not imagine not being able to go inside of a store and get a dress last minute or get shoes last minute. I remember being on a panel and I left my high heels at home and I had tennis shoes, so I had to stop at Dillard's. Could you imagine not being able to stop at a store when you need to at the drop of a dime because retail is dead? And so no, it's not dead. It's just simply evolving. It's changing. We are getting smaller footprints. You look at Walmart with the neighborhood Walmarts. You look at Target, who's looking at downsizing. Some of you are familiar with Topshop. You might be like, oh, Topshop went out of business because brick and mortars are dying. It's not true. Topshop has now moved inside of Nordstrom's. So they are absolutely still relying on brick and mortar. They just no longer have these large footprints. Microsoft, I think that was the biggest thing that put people in a little bit of a fear, is just saying, well, Microsoft is getting rid of all of their stores. Well, you can still go inside of Best Buy, Fry's, Walmart, Sam's, Target. You can go inside of any of those stores and find Microsoft products. In addition to that, yes, they may have closed their stores, but they also just just signed a lease on 500,000 square feet of office space in Atlanta. And so when we're talking about brick and mortar dying or retail dying, it's simply changing and evolving, and I think it will continue to do so over time. We're starting to look more for an experience. Retail is no longer just about the products that you offer. It's about the experience and the service that I get when I go there. Ladies, I have a wedding dress down here. Could you imagine having to buy 10 dresses online to try them on, as opposed to being able to go into the store with family and friends and try it on? And gentlemen, what about those shoes? Could you imagine having to just buy online and not be able to see, touch, and feel it before you purchase it? And so again, I've said it 100 times at this point, it's not dying, it's simply evolving. And so that's kind of the update for retail. When we look at industrial, this is one of the strongest sectors that we have right now. I don't know how many of your family and friends have started a masking business or hand sanitizer, cleaning products, working out. The gym facilities are now moving into warehouse facilities. So we're starting to see different things happen, especially in industrial. And one of the things that I wanted to make sure I let everyone know, when we're talking about how do I judge the market, don't just look on social media. Make sure that you're looking at CNBC, you're watching the stocks, you're looking at those things, because that drives your commercial real estate as well. I was looking at the stock market the other day. I was reading a post that my old financial advisor wrote, and they were talking about how Dick's is seeing an increase in purchases for sporting goods. Well, we're staying at home and we want to do outdoor activities. So we're looking to do biking, fishing, anything that's outdoors we're looking to do. So Dick's is seeing an increase in sales. And so those are things that you want to look at. And of course, because of those things, distribution centers and in industrial buildings, warehouses, they are at a rise. People are looking for those facilities. And so again, this is one of the strongest markets that we have, and it has one of the lowest default rates as far as people defaulting on either their mortgage or their rent for warehouses. Land. This one we're not going to spend too much time on. Owners are pulling their properties from the market if the prices that are coming in are too low, and then investors are getting a little bit nervous. And so that's kind of driving what's happening with land, because we don't know, especially for an example, when we don't know what the market is going to do. You're looking at putting homes or condos on a property or on land, and you see that, okay, you know what? We don't know if we're going to be able to get $300,000 for this home anymore. Look at the housing market. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get what I thought I was going to get on this. So I can't pay $150 a square foot for X amount of land. So land market, again, we're seeing a lot of things. We're seeing an array of things. Some of the property managers are saying, absolutely no, we're not going to lower our prices. Investors are getting nervous. And so this one has a mixed review of what's going on in the market for land. If you have the money to sustain, again, land may be a great option for you to invest in, but I would say definitely the strongest one as of right now is warehouse. Multifamily, a lot of questions around multifamily. What I want to share with this is that it's a pendulum effect, right? So I think it's August 3rd, there's going to be a lift on evictions. And so we're going to see a lot of people be evicted. So those people, again, when we go back to the unemployment or the two things that drive commercial real estate, which is jobs and population, and over 20 million jobs lost, that means a lot of people are not going to be able to pay their rent. And a lot of people are going to have to move from apartments and into homes, either back with friends or family, or they're going to have to say, listen, I need my cousin and my sister to come and we're going to get a house. And instead of spending $1,700 for one 771 square foot apartment, I'm going to spend $1,700 divided by 3 people for about 1,500 square feet in a house, because that's more feasible for me right now. And so multifamily is definitely taking a hit and will continue to take a hit until the unemployment improves. And so that's kind of what's going on. Again, we're moving from inner city to the suburbs. And I'm not saying that it will never come back. And again, this is an opportunity for those who have the ability to financially sustain, but definitely want to make sure that you are looking at the market and what's happening in housing. And then special purpose, we'll just move past that. Special purpose is going to be your car washes, dormitories, gas stations, golf courses. Again, these things are definitely taking a hit, not necessarily going to go away, but they're definitely taking a hit right now because, one, churches, I don't know who's been to a church since the pandemic, but I've been doing bedside Baptist this entire time. Sports arenas, we're just getting back into it, but we're not having people inside of the arenas. And so those are things that are affecting hotels and motels. We're not traveling as much, so we don't need as much need, or we don't have as much of a need for hotels and motels. So again, special purpose, they're definitely taking a hit as well. But if you have the financial capability to sustain, it does serve an opportunity for you. And now we're going to move into opportunities, because I know that that's one of the biggest questions is, how do I make money in this COVID environment? So I put this little brief here. COVID's definitely caused a volatile market. Every week, every other week, it is changing and it is shifting. But one thing that we know and we believe here in our office is, for every challenge, there is a solution, and for every solution, there is an opportunity. So we look for those opportunities even when there's a challenge. And so I encourage you all to do the same thing, especially for my investors. So this is something, pay very close attention to this. I'm really excited about this program. We have a couple of people that are working in it right now. The SBA loan. This loan will give any commercial real estate investor, someone who is looking to purchase a building, 6 months of free mortgage payments. Not abated, not deferred, not amortized over the duration of your mortgage. It is completely free to you. You don't pay a mortgage payment to the 7th month. Couple of stipulations for this program. Your business must occupy 51%. This cannot be a strictly investment purchase. So if you're doing multifamily, it probably would not work. If you just need a lot of land, it would not work. There has to be a structure on the property. 51% has to be occupied by you. Has to be for profit, cannot be a nonprofit organization. And then last, but certainly not least, it has to be fully funded and closed by September the 27th. And so if your business qualifies for all 3 of those and you're interested in this program, please do let me know. This came as a direct result of COVID. It has never been done before, and we do not know if we'll see it again. Office market or office condos. Again, another opportunity. We see people moving from co-working space into executive suites. Office condos, for those who ask, do I have to have a lot of money to get into commercial real estate? Office condos, I've seen them for as low as $250,000 up to $688,000, and the prices range. And so this is an opportunity for you to get in on a low end in a commercial building where you can, again, charge rents. If you're going to use the SBA program, you have to occupy 51% of that building, which in case you still would be able to drive revenues from that, as you could be in one space and then lease out the other two spaces and have the other half of the building still belong to your business. And so again, that's an opportunity. If you're interested, definitely let us know. Investment properties. We talked about how people were taking their properties off the market, but there's also people who are motivated now to sell their properties more than ever because we're taking a hit. I need cash flow. I don't know if I'm going to make it through COVID, so I want to sell my property. So you may see some more properties come on the market and sellers be a little bit more motivated to sell their properties and lower their prices. For leasing purposes, for those of you who are saying, I really want to get into an office building, this would be a good time if you have the financial capability to sustain, to get into an office, because I'm pretty sure that they're going to be having flexible lease terms and pricing. And the lease terms are important because if you lock in a low rate right now for 3 to 5 years, when the market turns and they're charging again $25 and $30 a square foot for office space, you've locked in such a low rate, you don't have to worry about it for the duration of your lease agreement. And so this would be a great time for you to go ahead and get in on an office space if you have the ability. And last but certainly not least, one of my biggest things is always, 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 especially in this environment, always consult with a commercial real estate advisor and make sure you have an attorney on hand. The last thing you want to do is to sign a lease agreement or purchase a property.
It's 12 o'clock.
Sorry, you guys, my computer tells me what time it is. But you don't want to get in and be in a commercial real estate or in a commercial real estate investment and sign a deal that is not beneficial for you, especially in this climate. So that's all for our presentation. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to let Ed jump in, and we're going to start answering some of the questions that came in from registration. So I'm going to see which ones we're going to attack here, which ones we're going to tackle. You guys sent over some amazing questions, by the way, so thank you so much for that. And we're going to answer as many of them as we can. I will go until about 12:15 with the ones on paper, and then at 12:15 we'll go ahead and start taking live questions. So the first one that we have here is, what does it take to transition from residential to commercial real estate? I'm going to let Ed answer that one because he's done it. Because Ed has done it and he's been extremely successful in it. He was with, what is it? What was the first firm you were with? He was with. Can you all hear Ed? Let me know in the chat. No? Okay, so here we go. Let me see if I can do this. Yeah.
All right. Okay, everybody, can you hear me now? We can see them echoing now. Yes.
There we go.
Okay, all right. You guys are blowing up. Yes. So first of all, I'm really excited to support this effort of Tiffany. I think this is amazing that so many people have expressed an interest in commercial real estate. So the question was, how do you get started in commercial real estate? Is that the question?
How do you transition from residential to commercial?
Okay, so let me answer that by sharing my story. I started off in residential real estate myself. I worked for Century 21 for several years. Then I worked for ERA. And during the time I was working for ERA, I had an opportunity to get exposed to commercial real estate through a contract that I had with the FDIC. And I tell you, that got me on fire. So I never knew anything about commercial real estate and had never heard anything about really commercial real estate because my focus was on residential. But I knew that residential was not my permanent path. I was a business major and I was more bottom line than I was talking about carpet and bathrooms and kitchens and, you know, and that sort of thing. I was successful at residential, but I knew commercial was where I wanted to be. So what did I do? I started reviewing the resumes of the top commercial real estate professionals in my market. And I did that because I wanted to know, if I wanted to be successful, I wanted to know what those folks did and how did they become successful. And one of the things that was important for me to learn was that it's a very closed circle in commercial real estate. You have a small group of people that control the commercial real estate market. And back then, most of the people that were involved in commercial real estate definitely did not look like me. If you guys think it's challenging now, try being back when I started some 38 years ago. When you walk into the room, you were the only one of color in that room. When you call commercial companies, you could not get them to return your phone calls and all that stuff. So how did I transition over? First of all, you have to make a commitment that that's what you want to do. All right. So I ended up having to let go of all of my residential clients and all of my residential assignments. So I tried to do it both ways at first. I said, well, I'll do residential and commercial. Well, to me, if I'm going to a doctor for a serious illness, I want a specialist. I don't want a heart doctor who also is a mechanic on the side and who also does carpentry on the side. I want a heart doctor who is the expert in that area. So I know I'm getting the very best. So that image is the very best. So for me, I knew that if I wanted to be considered a professional and an expert and one of the top commercial real estate persons in our city, then I knew that I had to brand myself that way. And people had to know me as a top commercial real estate person, not as a residential and a commercial. I did residential part-time, do commercial part-time. I wanted folks to understand that I was committed and I was all in. So I eventually started transferring my residential assignments over to other people within my firm. So that's the first thing I think you got to do. You got to make a commitment that you want to do this commercial real estate. Secondly, you have to understand what it takes. And I tell new people that come to work for me right now, three things that I suggest that you do not do. One is, if you're not married, don't get married. If you don't have a car payment, do not get a car payment. If you can stay at home in the basement with mama or daddy or sister or brother, do that for at least 6 months. Because if you're not financially prepared to weather the storm of commercial real estate, you will be out of this industry before you can even get started. So it is a 24 to 36 month learning period. And so if you jump into this business and you say that you're going to make a bunch of money early on, and that doesn't happen for you, you end up getting a part-time job. And everybody that I know that got a part-time job once they got into commercial real estate ended up getting out of commercial real estate. So what do you do? One, you make the commitment first to do it. Two, you understand what other successful commercial real estate practitioners are doing. And then three, those three things I told you, if you can try to do that, I think that would be very helpful for you. And then the last thing I would say before we move on to the next question, certainly we can answer some more, is to get the proper education and training that you need. When you're in residential, you're talking consumer language, right? When you're in commercial, you're talking C-level language. You're talking profit and loss. You're talking balance sheet. You're talking bottom line. You're talking how commercial real estate is going to improve my shares, the profit of my organization. So you have to be able to understand that language, talk that language, and speak that language. You must have good verbal and written skills, and you must understand financial, how to read financial statements and how to handle financial situations. Those are some of the kind of high-level common things that I think you need to be prepared for if you're going to enter into commercial real estate.
So the next question that we have is going to be, we're going to do, are the barriers to entry as great as they seem?
So the barriers to entries are not as great as they used to be, but they still exist. All right. So what do you need to get to be successful in commercial real estate? I think you need a mentor or someone that will invest in your success. You need to have access, and that is access to information, access to decision makers. You need to have access to other commercial real estate professionals in your market. So there are barriers, and those barriers exist because we're just not operating in that space. So how do you overcome those barriers? If you need a mentor, you now start developing your plan or your strategy to identify a mentor that's going to help you. If you need to understand who are the players in commercial real estate, you start hanging out where those players hang out at, so you can build those relationships. If you need to develop your line of business for commercial real estate, most of the decision makers are business owners or VP of real estate or facilities managers. So you need to find out where those business owners hang out at, what organizations, and hang out where they hang out and start developing those relationships. So the barriers still exist, but they're not so challenging that you can't overcome them. It's not going to be easy, but you can overcome.
Can you all hear? Is that better? There we go. Okay, so we're talking about the Black women in the real estate industry. So the question was, how can more Black women join? How can more Black women be more involved? And what I was saying is, make sure that as Black people, we're not just looking to work with each other. Make sure we open up our ideas to working with other races and other people in the industry, because this is not an industry where we're just going to be able to, close ourselves in and just do Black. We have to be open to networking and working with other people and other races. And that's the best way that we get the biggest solutions. As far as being a Black woman in the industry and the issues that I've been blessed with an opportunity to work for a team that had a positive name in the city and quite honestly across the country before I even got into it. And so making sure that whatever firm you're with is well respected, it's almost like a trickle down effect where you almost get a different level of respect because of the work they've done. And so, I'm grateful for that. But just to speak on the complexities of being a Black woman in the industry, there's a lot of things that we have to go through. One is that we are typically overlooked, and we are typically quiet, and we want to be more nurturing. So we have a tendency to not ask for what we desire, and we're not as aggressive with our negotiating skills. And so being with a more aggressive team that I have, for those of you who know, my father will negotiate me out of a cereal box. Okay. So I am forced and pushed to make sure that I am aggressive with my networking and that I am put in circles with people who are smarter than me. And I have no problem with being in the room with nothing but men, regardless if they're white, Black, Asian, Indian, or anything else. I have no problem with being in that room and standing my ground and still being as confident as I would be if I was in a room full of women. And so, yes, there's definitely challenges, but I think that we can all overcome them. It's not anything that you cannot get through or move past. And so if you have any other questions around that, and if you want some more guidance on that, please do reach out to me after, and I'd love to schedule a conference call around that. The next question that we have is, how do you get started with getting your real estate license? This is an easy one. Again, this is 101. You guys can do your real estate license online. You can go in class. They've made it to where you can do it in the morning, in the daytime, or you can do it at night. And so there's no excuse as to why you cannot get your commercial real estate license. There's a lot of options for you to do that. And I'm going to take some here from the chat. What's the best vehicle to find investors? So, Ed, you want to take that one?
Okay, so depends on what type of investor you are going after, right? You can have institutional investors, and these are large investors like pension funds and insurance companies and those sorts of and government entities. Those are investors of commercial real estate. Or you can be talking about a small to mid-sized business investors. And so where would you find those? You look at the different organizations that's in your local market. There may be chamber of commerce that you're involved in. There may be professional organizations that you're involved in. And so that would be where I would say you could start. Identifying, first of all, what type of investor you're looking for. You can even narrow it down to a particular sector. And Tiffany went over that earlier. Are you looking for investors that are interested in multifamily, retail, office, industrial, vacant land, warehouse? What type of investor are you looking for? Are you looking for those investors that are $1 million or more, $10 million or more? So determine what your investor criteria is will help you to determine where you focus your attention and your resources.
So we have some questions, some additional questions in the chat, but another question that came online that I want to address first, that's kind of like, where do you get your investors? One of the questions was, how do you get leads in this environment? And I just want to let you know, it is not impossible to get leads in this environment. You've got to be extremely creative. And because we are not shaking hands the way we typically would, you've got to get on some form of a digital platform, whatever that looks like for you, whether it is Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or maybe you ramp up your website. You have got to be visible online. If you don't have any form of a presence online, you almost do not exist in this technology-driven world. And so I would encourage you to, just look at, where can I go? What would be the best platform for me? And in all honesty, Ed and I used to have, I call them not heated conversations, but warm discussions about social media all the time. And I will tell you, as a result of you all and in your support and everything that you all have done for us, we were able to get upwards towards 300,000 views on the one photo that we posted. And our pipeline, and I will tell you, just like from, not to put false hope, but just to give you some realities, we have upwards towards, from social media alone, upwards towards 6 to 7 million in the pipeline from social media. And so it is not impossible to drive leads from social media, from online platforms, but you've got to make sure that you are present and that you are providing beneficial and quality information. That's how you drive your leads.
Let me talk a little bit about this lead generation as well. And that is, commercial real estate is a relationship business. So before the pandemic, the relationship meant that you had to be face-to-face, shaking hands, develop, a rapport over some period of time. Now you have to shift that to the social media platform. And how do you establish, maintain, build a relationship even through social media? When you look at commercial real estate, it is a huge investment. So people are not as quick to turn that process over to you unless they have a confidence in you. First of all, that they trust you. Secondly, that they believe you know what the heck you're doing. And sometimes that takes some time to develop. So whether you're doing it in person or through social media, it's a relationship building industry that you have to get very, very good at establishing relationships, maintaining relationships, and growing relationships.
Okay, so we're gonna take, one of the questions was regarding the SBA loan. What are some examples that you can use this commercial loan on? Any property that has a structure on it. So outside of multifamily and assisted living, your business has to occupy 51% of the building that you're on. Again, that's 6 months of free or not abated, not amortized or drawn out. This is free mortgage payments on the SBA loan, but 51% of your business has to occupy that space. You have to be fully funded and closed by the 27th, and it has to be a for-profit. So if you meet those criteria, then you can absolutely apply for that loan. Do you have to get a residential license before you get into commercial? You have to have, so it depends on what you're coming from. If you're looking from an investment standpoint, you don't need a license. But if you're looking to do or be an agent or a brokerage, you do need a residential license. It's the same license. And then you identify a commercial firm that you want to go and work for. Or if you're a residential agent and you're saying, hey, I'm not ready to go over full-time into commercial, but I want to start working on commercial deals. I find myself always pushing them off or saying no. Then you want to partner. We have an affiliate program where we'll partner with you and walk you through and work with you on your commercial transactions if it's what you want to do. And so I want to make sure that once you identify a commercial deal and you want to work on it, don't push it away. Identify somebody, or you can give us a call and see how you can work with the commercial agent on that transaction. But definitely, I would say if you're going to do it, make sure you involve a commercial expert on that.
So let me chime in on that real quickly. So there's no residential and commercial real estate license. It's just one real estate license that you get. You decide which practice you want to focus on. So once you get your real estate license, you can decide if you want to be a residential broker, if you want to be a commercial broker, or if you want to do both. There's no residential real estate license or no commercial real estate license. You get the license and you decide how you want to develop your career.
Ready? So we have a question here, CRE versus CCIM. Do you need both? So CCIM is a designation. I'm actually pursuing mine. Ed has had his for a while. Commercial CRE is just the acronym for commercial real estate. CCIM is the actual designation. It's one of the highest designations that you can get in the industry. It's equivalent to the PhD in commercial real estate.
Now there is a designation that's also called CRE. It's a corporate real estate executive designation. Okay. And so that designation, there are a number of different designations. Let me just talk briefly about designation, because some of you guys may be trying to figure out, okay, I'm gonna go into commercial real estate, but do I want to do everything? I want to do office, retail, industrial, or do I want to specialize? There are two schools of thought on what you should do when you go into commercial real estate. I chose not to focus on one particular area, but to develop expertise and knowledge around a number of different areas. But if you choose to focus, there are some designations that you can just focus on. For instance, in retail, ICSC is a designation, an organization that will be more focused and targeted on retail development and retail transactions. SIOR is an organization which is focused on industrial property. CCIM is focused on investment property. So there are a number of different designations that you can pursue if you want to target on one particular sector or not.
Okay, so we're going to go back into the chat. We have, do you know of anyone that's been successful entering into the CRE space as a part-time commercial real estate agent? Great question. And I'll let Ed chime in on this one as well.
So that depends on your definition of success. All right. So if you have a full-time job and you work in commercial real estate on the side, you just want to do 1 or 2 transactions a year, I mean, that may be your definition of success. But I would tell you, overall, I have not seen a person who holds himself out as a commercial real estate professional do it on a part-time basis. And I go back to what I said earlier. I don't want a part-time heart surgeon working on me. I don't want a part-time dentist working on me. I don't want a part-time attorney working on me. So if you come to me and tell me that you are a part-time commercial real estate professional, I'm probably not going to hire you for my transaction. If you go to a corporate entity and tell them you're doing part-time, they're not going to hire you. Go to a government entity and say you're doing it part-time, they're not going to hire you. So you have to determine what success looks like for you in this space. We don't hire part-time people because this is a full-time job. And we think that requires all your resources and all your time. Now, if you want to start off in a part-time capacity somewhere and work your way up to a full-time, that may be a different strategy. But I've not seen part-time commercial real estate professionals have long-term success.
While you're on, did you start your business initially upon leaving residential, or did you work for a commercial real estate firm?
No, that's a great question. If I had to do it all over again, I would probably go to work for a commercial real estate firm. But mine was all trial and error. And maybe that was the best way for me. But no, I made a decision one day that I was going to jump into commercial real estate, and you can see the scars on my back and the scars on my knees for many years of doing it that way. But yeah, so you can just jump in if you have the confidence to do it.
Okay, so for the individual who just jumped on the call looking for projections for the commercial real estate market, with COVID and telework, and would this be a good time to purchase commercial property? We went over it briefly at the beginning, but essentially there's opportunities for both. Yes, telework is definitely taking a hit for office spaces, but also, do I think it's dead? Do I think office space is dead? No, it's not dead. I think that it will have to come back around slowly, but people are definitely working more from home, and we're seeing more office space come on. But there's opportunities for those people who were in co-working and collaborative spaces. There's opportunity for them to move into more executive suites where it's not as high touch, not as much exposure to other people. And so there's some opportunities in the market. And so if you'd like, we can go back over that after the call as well. Brokerage commission splits and caps. I will say this, and I'll pass it over to Ed. We get paid for our time and our knowledge, and when you enter into a brokerage firm for commercial real estate, it typically looks different than residential. And so I'll let him talk a little bit more about the commission splits.
The first thing I would say, if you focus too much on commissions, you're probably going to miss the big picture. And I say that because in a residential transaction, I can give you 70%, 80% of the deal, and you make, let's say you make $4,000. On a commercial transaction, I can give you 10% of the deal, and you make $25,000. You really have to be careful on this commission conversation, because I've seen people who have been so used to the residential model not make it in commercial real estate because they don't understand the big picture. Every deal that we work on is on a case-by-case scenario. But if you come to work for our firm right now, commission split that you would probably be on, if you have any experience, would be 50-50. That's if you're handling a transaction on your own without a whole lot of people involved. But if you're working on a team with several other people involved, then that commission split is going to be adjusted accordingly. But you can't lose sight of the big picture by focusing on the commission split. You want to make sure that you're in an environment that will allow you to grow your pipeline, and the commission split is not as important as the dollars that you put in your pocket.
Okay, so we have a question here asking about, for the first 30, 60, 90 days, what should you be doing when you're going after commercial real estate? Do you want to take that one?
Should be praying your ass off.
That. Okay, I don't know if you guys heard that before, but let me say it again just to reiterate. I said, if you just get into the business in your first 30, 60, 90 days, you should be praying your ass off, right? Because it's going to be very challenging for you. But I always say start with a business plan. What is your business plan for the first 30, 60, 90 days? And just walk through that day. When you get up in the morning, what are you going to do? Right? How are you going to be prepared to grow your business and be the best you can be? I always tell people that there are three things that I do every day, and that is staying physically, mentally, and spiritually fit. Because this business has a potential of beating you down. You can be rich by 9 o'clock in the morning. You can be in a poorhouse by 5 o'clock. It's such an emotional roller coaster because your transaction is tied to so many different things beyond your control. So you have to have the stamina, the physical stamina to run the race. You have to have the mental intellect to understand and negotiate and navigate through all that stuff. You have to be, spiritually fit, in my opinion, because some of these things just require stuff beyond your control. So what do you do in the first 30 days? One, you want to make sure you've got your training scheduled down. How are you going to learn this industry? What are you going to do to learn commercial real estate? Second, you want to figure out where do you need to hang out in order to get more exposure to commercial real estate professionals, commercial real estate ideas, commercial real estate opportunities. And then where are you going to get your business? What is your business development plan, both your social media strategy and your in your networking and getting involved in organizations and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so do you have any book recommendations, best organizations to join in Houston for networking in Houston commercial real estate space?
All right, this book thing, man, I tell you, I've read thousands of books, but if you ask me which book to go to, I would have to say, let us get back with on the list of books, because there's just so many, and not one really come to mind. I know some of the books that I read are not commercial real estate, associated with commercial real estate. I just finished reading the Blue Ocean book, which is strategy around business and so forth. So I read a lot of different books. Now, organizations. Which organizations should you get yourself involved in? You want to look at your Chamber of Commerce. You want to look at your business organizations. You want to volunteer. You want to serve on committees. You want to do those things that will get you engaged in that organization so people know who you are. Anytime I get involved in an organization, I want to make sure that folks know that I'm adding value to their organization. So if I'm involved in an organization, I want to serve on a committee, because that way I'm in a room of 10, 15 people for at least 45 minutes to an hour, at least once a month. And if I'm in that room with you for 45 minutes to an hour once a month, you're going to get a chance to know who I am. You're going to get a chance to know what my character is, what my expertise is, what my knowledge is, whether or not you trust or like me to do business with me. So you want to get involved in organizations, business organizations. From a career perspective, you have to decide where you want to focus on. There are a lot of real estate organizations. You have ULI, which is the Urban Land Institute. They focus on development. You have SIOR, they are industrial. You have CCIM, there's investment. You have ICSC, you have women's organization. So you just want to, you can research real estate organizations wherever you are, and then you can start just visiting those organizations, do their lunches, do their breakfasts, do their networking hours, and you can get a sense of which organizations you think are most valuable to you in your career.
Okay, so one of the questions we have is around mentorship, and there was another one that was sent in. One, do we charge for mentorship? No, we do not charge for mentorship, and you do not have to be in the city of Houston. We're building this out now, and so we'll let you know in a couple of weeks what that's going to look like. But no, you do not have to be just in the city of Houston or the state of Texas to get mentorship. So we don't charge for mentorship. Coaching is a different thing. And so coaching is more based on strategy and actual tactics for your business. And so Ed and I have both agreed, for those who are on this call and those who registered, we will shave off $100 of our consulting fee, so it is more feasible and more obtainable for those of you who are looking to grow and identify different strategies and tactics that we're using, especially right now during COVID, to grow our pipeline. Like I said, for me, this has been the most active that my pipeline has been since I've been in the industry. And to have a multi-million-dollar pipeline during a pandemic, I think that's pretty phenomenal. So
let me answer the question about what it takes to be the process of becoming an agent with our organization. I would say first, reach out to Tiffany and send her your resume, and then schedule a call for us to talk about that. That'd be the first thing I would say on that. In terms of coaching and mentoring, keep in mind that as a commercial real estate professional, you get paid for your time and your knowledge, right? Every minute that you spend somewhere is a lost opportunity for revenue or income. So we don't have a warehouse where we store cans of products and services. When we sell it, we make money. We make our money off our time and our knowledge. So we have to be careful and smart about that, and so will you. Now, we will be launching a boot camp, because we've had a lot of folks ask us to do some training and that sort of thing. So I would say stay tuned for a commercial real estate boot camp that we'll be launching, and this would be an opportunity for you to invest in your career and into your knowledge through the commercial real estate boot camp.
So there's a really long question here regarding technology. I think I saw it before in the Q&A. How is technology disrupting the market? So technology is definitely playing a major role. So you're seeing people now, instead of doing actual physical tours, they are doing virtual tours. Again, we're meeting people online. We're doing more meet and greet online than we are face to face. So technology is playing a huge role in the commercial real estate space. And again, if you are not into technology, if you are not investing in technology for yourself and for your company, you are definitely going to fall behind. COVID has done nothing but catapulted us into a place where we absolutely have to rely on a certain level of technology. And so I didn't get to read the entire question, but if you can send it to me via email, and I'll go ahead and submit my information in the chat. We can get some answers for you. And we're coming up. I'll do another 7 minutes of questions here. You all, I want to be respectful of your time. We have a ton of questions that are still coming in, and some that we still haven't answered. But let's see, what CRM and lead gen service, if any, are you all using, and why? So I personally am not using any CRM lead generation services. I am getting leads from being extremely active in providing valuable information on social media. And that's how I've been able to build my pipeline.
Yeah, and I'm still old school. I do a lot of organizations and a lot of volunteering and thought leader types of things. So mine's a combination of both some social media stuff, which is basically driven by Tiffany, and my relationship over the years through organizations and community-based initiatives that I'm involved in.
Okay, so there was a question down here asking about the eviction procedures for leased office space. Katrina, can you expand on that question? Are you saying you want to evict someone, or are you asking how are landlords evicting individuals on that? And then we had, what is a typical entry point for commercial real estate? Can you just go into brokerage? No, you do have to go in. You have to serve 4 years as an agent. So hang your license with a commercial firm for 4 years before you can get into brokerage. But I will say this, for me, one of the things that I've learned, and I may be a little bit biased, if I had to start over and my father was not the CEO of this company, I would absolutely still take a serious look at this firm because of the uniqueness of it, because of the one-on-one mentorship, because of the opportunities that they have in-house. And so when I'm looking, if I were to go out and look for another firm to work for, I would look for a firm that I wasn't going to be in for just 4 years until I could move into brokerage. I want to be in a firm that is in line with my morals, my beliefs, and my values, and that I believe is going to allow me to be creative in my solutions and push me out of my comfort zone. And so in commercial real estate, it's expensive to be in the industry. It's expensive to stay in the industry. So if you're looking to get into it, not to say that you shouldn't start your own, I'm just saying that when you look at it, don't look at it just for, I'm going to jump in for 4 years and I'm going to stay there for 4 years and then move on. I would look at a firm that you could see yourself growing with over a duration of time.
Let me talk about the requirements for broker. Each state has different licensing requirements. So in Texas, you may have to work on the broker for 2 to 4 years, but in other states it may be different. So check with your real estate licensing commission, whatever state you're in. And there was a question about, do we have an office in the Dallas-Fort Worth area? So we have affiliate relationships around the country, and we have an affiliate relationship in Dallas where we work on assignments together. This is an opportunity to talk about how we can work with you guys too. Wherever you are in the country, we have affiliate relationships where we have completed transactions in most states in this country. So we can talk more about that affiliate relationship. We have an affiliate relationship in Atlanta. We have an affiliate relationship in Detroit. So we can talk more about what that looks like for anybody that's interested. And in Philadelphia. So all these cities we've done some transactions in. We have affiliate relationships that we can definitely talk with you about.
Katrina is asking, she's saying she wants to evict the tenant. What are the procedures for her to evict the tenant?
So your local jurisdiction will determine what those eviction procedures are. So I would say that's where the justice of the peace is usually the legal entity that handles that. So you'd have to check with your local your local officials to determine that, and particularly during this pandemic. I mean, some cities may have a soft moratorium on evictions, and some may not. So you may have to check with your local municipality to determine that.
So last two questions. The first one is, will a commercial real estate firm hire someone without real estate experience, a newly licensed agent? Absolutely. Depending on where you are, you need to identify a commercial real estate firm. It's going to be difficult for you to come in and be able to have a book of business, but you have to be able to show where you can add value at. And so, for instance, for us, we would definitely bring someone on that is newly licensed and interested in the industry. But we want to make sure that it's going to be a mutually beneficial relationship and someone who understands that this is not going to be a 30-day get rich situation. And typically when you go in, it is full commission based. And so if you're prepared for that, firms are absolutely looking for you. And the last question that we will take on is, what advice would you give to enter the commercial real estate space as an investor? I'll say something and I'll let Ed take it on. I would say get your team together. Get you a commercial real estate advisor or agent on your team, an attorney, a banker, a CPA. Pull your team together. You most definitely do not want to do any kind of deals without an agent or without a professional commercial real estate advisor and an attorney, especially in this environment.
So I would say make sure you have your investor profile nailed down. And we have an investor profile form that we can probably share with you in the group, because it walks you through questions and issues you need to be addressing if you're going to be an investor or if you're going to be soliciting investors to partner with. This form, I think, is probably the first step I would take, because it could cause you to think about you as an investor and bringing on other investors, and then addresses some of the things that Tiffany has talked about as well. So that investor profile will be key.
Okay, well, thank you all so much. It is 12:40. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We still have a ton of questions, and what I'll try to do is add these. For those of you who know, I started an ebook, and so I'll try to add some of these into the ebook. But thank you all so much for joining us. Those of you who are interested in mentorship or coaching or affiliate programs across the country, I saw some additional people that asked about it. San Francisco, Montgomery, Wisconsin, please, please, please. I'm going to add my Instagram as well as my email address on here so you guys can keep up to date with us on social media. You can send me an email if you're interested in the affiliate program, coaching, mentorship. Again, we're building those things out, and so we should have something out in the next 2 weeks. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Outside of that, please, you all send us a review. Let us know how we did and what else you would want to hear about in our next session, because we will definitely be having more. I hope this was beneficial and helpful to you guys, and I just appreciate everything. So thank you, and you guys have a great Friday. Be safe out there.